Okay, perfect. So we started with investments and microfinance. At that time, it was the name microfinance in the 70s. We started like most of the NGOs at that time with our grant programs and some credit systems. In 1998, we created the Oxfam Novib Fund, which is the fund that we will present today. In 2006, together with other social impact investors, we create the Triple Jump, the asset manager, which is still our asset manager. Sophia, maybe you want to jump in?
Yes, exactly. So the story starts for Triple Jump in 2007 with two funds under management. Both of them focus on microfinance, the Oxfam Novib Fund and the ASN microcredits funds. Yeah, and that was actually just the beginning.
Yes, indeed. So I like to say that we developed our fund with the sector, with the industry. So we went from supporting microfinance mainstream to focusing only on rural of agri-finance. And in the 2010, we defined our niche in tier 2s and tier 3s MFI. And we did it for several years. In 2021, we decided to switch and to redefine the focuses of our fund. I'll tell you more in a few minutes. But maybe it's good that Sophia tells you a little bit more on what is Triple Jump nowadays.
Yes, so as I was mentioning before, by now Triple Jump is a much bigger organization with more than €1 billion under management, divided into three main business lines. And so we expanded from microfinance actually then to SME finance and access to energy. It's quite a global organization because we have offices in every continent where we operate in emerging markets, more than 100 employees and 7 funds under management. There is much more, to say about, but let's keep it a bit concise for now. And well, there is ample space for questions later. Now, I told you to keep your phones ready because it's time for a little quiz. We want to see who is awake after lunch, who is still with us.
We know it's the last session of the third day, so don't worry.
Okay, how does Menti work? You can either scan the QR code or you log in. Perfect, you arrived just on time to participate to our quiz. Thank you, Daphne. Get ready. And then when we have enough people, we start with quiz. There is no winner. Huh? Everyone is winning and no one is winning. It's very democratic, very egalitarian quiz. Inclusive, very inclusive quiz. Perfect. Great. We have another participant to the quiz. Perfect. That's the moment. That's the moment to join, guys. That's the fun part. Well, we have already more than 20. That's already an achievement. I think everyone, no, let's give just one. Is everyone there? Yeah? Okay, we can start. Who is in the audience today? Let's get to know each other. Okay, well, NGOs is predominant. I guess the red Oxfam Novib was there. 2 MFIs, very nice. 7 others, guys. We didn't manage to cover. Well, our categories are completely wrong. Does anyone from other want to tell how they want to identify themselves? Yeah, true. Very good one. Thank you. Consulting. Okay. Okay, so just 2 extra buckets we needed next time. Hello, welcome. Yes, you can still participate. Okay, so a very wide and diverse group, perfect. Now, are you ready to play? Yes, I see 21, perfect. Okay, so how much climate finance need developing countries per year by 2030? You'll see the options on your phone. You need to click one. Okay, everyone has voted. Oh, okay. So I see 3 people got it right. So originally, until 2021, 100 billion per year was the official number. Then the UN actually had to update it and say that between 2021 and 2030, it will require actually 600 billion per year, approximately, up to then 6 trillion overall. And this is just to meet the Paris Agreement. And all the commitments in the Paris Agreement, nothing beyond that. So the actual need is even more than what is estimated here. Second question. Okay, how much adaptation finance is available as a percentage of the overall climate finance and climate investments? Okay, everyone has voted. Let's see. It froze. Okay, sorry. Okay, well, being pessimistic is actually a positive element in this quiz, because unfortunately, it's only 10% of all climate investments that is defined as adaptation. This didn't come too much as a surprise, I guess, in this crowd. Okay, and now a bit more of a self-assessment. How difficult do you think it would be for MFIs to integrate climate considerations into their strategies and operations? There is no right or wrong, I guess. More a self-assessment. Would it be challenging? That's the question. Okay, I think the score is stabilizing, so everyone should have voted. So, well, 3.5, it would be quite challenging, but not impossible. That's the assessment of a group. I think it reflects reality, I would say. All right, well, thanks for having been an active crowd. I think this is useful to understand indeed who is in the room today, and just start talking a little bit more about why then we decided not to pivot a bit the strategy of a fund and move to climate resilience. So here are some facts that, I mean, perhaps for this crowd, we don't need to repeat too much. Everyone is quite aware of the issues. We have seen in many presentations and many panels in these 3 days how developing countries are not the greatest polluters or the greatest contributors to climate change, but are suffering the consequences of it the most, and how having to deal with climate shocks exacerbate existing inequalities. So within groups, from age groups to gender to rural areas, who is already excluded gets more excluded, or has more possibility of suffering for climate change. Women in particular, rural households, and small-scale agricultural producers that are less resilient to these changes. And MFIs are also affected by climate change in different ways. First of all, they are institutions, they are companies, so their assets can be affected in case of floods or in case of fire. They also have, though, a very particular structure. They are not just companies with assets, but they also have a portfolio, and their clients can get affected by climate change and climate shocks. So they can have deterioration in their portfolio quality, run on savings, increase claims in insurance. And all of that can also minimize their possibility of fundraising and get new investors and lenders on board. They do serve already these target groups that we were just mentioning before. So they already have access to these vulnerable groups, and sometimes they have products that are fully dedicated to these groups. And yet, overall, when we talk about climate finance, MFIs are not really the first stakeholder or financiers we think of, and they're quite absent. I mean, this conference this year is quite innovative in that sense, no? Where we keep talking about it, but it's one, and it's you know, just one out of many conferences of the industry. So overall, there is a lot of potential, not just risks linked to climate change, and the interlink between climate change and MFIs. And that's why we decided then that when we wanted to update our strategy, it was time to start looking at these more in depth and start walking the talk and redirect our funds to climate resilience through financial institutions.
And I think that it's important to mention, we realize with all these years that we have been working in this sector, we realize that climate change is affecting everyone, and everyone, organization of individuals have found a way to deal with. And we saw in the market and we saw in the industry that MFIs have been trying by themselves to do a way of to deal with this risk. So that is what we aim, and the new strategy was indeed triggered for the facts that we just mentioned. And as you can see, we have this nice mission and objectives. But to be short, I think that we can summarize to say that what we aim is to support financial institutions working on prone areas affected by climate change. And what we want to do is to support them to be more, to mitigate the risk and to adapt themselves and their products in order to support the resilience of the clients. In short, that is what we aim, that's what we want to do. So to do so, we have 3 credit lines, and the focus is indeed disaster. I think we believe climate change is bringing all the disasters, and MFIs and people is dealing with in the way that they can. So we have 3 credit lines for this to offer to MFIs. The first one is based on that support MFIs working on the prone areas already affected. We work with the senior subordinated loans. And the second one, it's something that I'm really proud of, because I think that there's something that is missing in the sector. We know, think for example in Pakistan, suddenly a shock came. And the reaction of the investors, all of us, the social ones of the less social ones, is, okay, hold on, let's see first what is the risk, and then let's wait, and then we might be able to do something. We do believe that it's just in that moment when social investors need to step in and to provide the right funding to MFIs to recover, in order that the MFIs is able to provide also fine-tuned finance to the clients. And otherwise, the recovery won't happen, or we will wait for a few years looking at the indicators. It's what we do, the investor, and waiting until the MFIs recover by themselves. So that is something that we really want to change, and that's why we have this credit line there. And we have a third credit line, we call it the Innovation Lab. And what we want to do with that is to pilot and to scale up pilots And the idea is to support the development of new products, financial or not, that the MFI could develop, is already developing in testing to offer clients to support them in their resilience, always thinking in climate change. We also have some small grants to support that phase of, or the recovery of the risk assessment of the MFIs to really assess the climate risk that they are dealing. And also we are supporting MFIs to first assess the climate risk that they are dealing with and to see the risk in a different way. Risk is also, once you mitigate or once you know the risk, can be an opportunity. And what we would like to do is to support MFIs to see that transition of, yeah, this is the risk. If I manage to deal with the risk, this can be also my opportunity to develop new products and to support new markets. That is what we aim to do with the grants. And it's also part of the nature of Oxfam. We lobby, so we want to influence other actors, other players, other stakeholders to also look at this issue as we hope it is.
And that's why we're here, doing influencing activities.
So this is a little bit the products that we are offering to financial institutions. We did our research looking at, okay, for what it is at this moment in the market, we have seen that these products are helpful for the MFIs to deal with this in this transition. So we offer blended finance, credit lines, mezzanine instrument, and risk transfer approach. That part is for us really important. I think that when you want to support the development of new products and the development of new markets, you need to be able to share risk with the MFIs. The non-financial, so I told you already, we're working with this assessment of risk, climate risk. We're supporting MFIs to develop the products when it's needed, and also for the training of staff. And this is these are the products that we expect to see in our clients. So what we are doing now is when we assess a new potential client, we assess the type of products that they are offering to their own clients. And we expect to see one of these, of combination of these, of the willingness to create, for example, a new credit line to support with one of these products. This is a list, it's not closed. It depends on the discussions that we might have with the
Okay.
So that is our offer. And what we would like to do here is also show you some faces of our clients.
Exactly. And we wanted to show two different cases. One is indeed a client from the first credit line. So how to build up resilience to face slow onset disasters and to make sure that end clients are ready or more ready to face climate change and its consequences. So Sumac is an SME lender in Kenya. So this to show that it's not just tier 3 MFIs that can be targeted or can be part of our portfolio. They do provide SME lending for trade finance, for assets, but they do have also quite a substantial portfolio of agri, smallholder farmers in the rural areas of Kenya, and they are bundling now the loan products with insurance, especially for livestock. So when they do provide a new livestock loan, they bundle it with insurance, and it's compulsory. And in this way, in case of indeed distress and loss of a livestock, then the risks of default of the clients are mitigated. But they will tell us better than I can tell you. So let's hear them.
In an effort to understand the impact of Sumac Microfinance Bank's support for our farmers, our media team caught up with Henry Nene in Githunguri, a dairy farmer who began his dairy business with one cow.
Within the 3 years, now you can count, you can see it's more than 25 cows here. You can count yourself. Eh? This year we got 10, that side is 10. We got the other side is almost 8. There are 28 cows. The time I got a loan from Sumac Microbank, 1.8 million, I started building other shelters for my cows. But the remaining money, I decided to buy a biogas because we normally use a lot of hot water and we normally use a lot of gas. And the gas is so expensive at this time. It is part of the money I was given by Sumac Microbank. I built the shelters and also the biogas. Right now, I have got about 3 workers. And therefore, I'm able to pay them. Also to my children, my wife, also we rely on these cows. So I can say thank you to Sumac Microbank for the work they have done to me. And they can see what we have done with their money.
As the interview concludes, the impact Henry's dairy farming business has had becomes very clear. He initially obtained a loan of $20,000 for 3 years, during which he has been able to acquire 28 dairy cows. He has also acquired biogas, employed 3 people from his community, and has ventured into poultry farming as well. As the Sumac Microfinance Bank team left Henry and his family, they were convinced that great strides had been made since they met 3 years ago. And the journey has only but just begun.
Okay, so this was a little testimony from Sumac, and now we move from Kenya to Pakistan. Indeed, so Tamara was hinting a bit before to floods that happened in the country. And SAFCO was already a client at the time, and we started working together even before the new strategy actually came into force to see how we could continue supporting them at the moment when indeed the risk department would have said, well, let's wait a little bit and then we will see what happens. And thanks to our support through a grant to develop this climate disaster framework and now an upcoming new credit line facility for recovery finance in particular, they have started developing and implementing this climate disaster framework and strengthening their risk management abilities in general. Yeah, I will, let's hear from them again.
SAFCO Microfinance Company Private Limited is a non-banking microfinance company licensed to provide financial services in Pakistan, focused on economic and social upliftment of low-income households by providing microfinance services in rural Sindh, which happened to be one of the most vulnerable regions in climate change. We aim to provide microfinance and microfinance plus services to entrepreneurs, small business women, small farmers on agriculture and livestock, and to the deprived communities in rural areas of Sindh. SAFCO Microfinance is one of the largest microfinance service provider in Sindh, with more than 122,000 active clients, 4 billion portfolio, 57 branch networks in 13 districts of Sindh. Sindh is the second largest province of Pakistan. In the last years, Sindh has seen climate change impacts resulting in increasing weather temperature, changing rain patterns, rising frequency of flood, droughts, cyclones, and water stress that has impacted agriculture, livelihood, and food security along with. Last year, Sindh has received 500% excess rainfall than normal rainfalls in the monsoon season. These rainfalls resulted in declaration of emergency in all the districts of Sindh, and all the operational areas of SAFCO were declared as disaster affected by Provincial Disaster Management Authority of Center. More than 800 deaths and more than 8,000 injuries were witnessed during these floods. More than 20 million of the population was directly affected with these. Loss of more than 400,000 livestock occurred. 100% of the ready crops were damaged. More than 2 million houses, infrastructures were damaged. A various number of disease outbreak was seen in number of villages were found disconnected from the cities since for a number of periods. Ultimately, the repayment culture of microfinance sector was also impacted by increase in the portfolio. Roxana is one of the impacted client of SAFCO. She lost her agriculture and home during the floods. She became homeless. She did not have any survival to survive. And this flood had made her 15 years back. Now she is approaching and reviving with and facing the number of hurdles to reach back to the previous lifestyle which she left with. There are a number of stories relevant to Roxana, which are mostly the same stories. And even in the crucial situation, they faced still a few of them are facing such challenges. And learning from these disasters, SAFCO realized that there should be the client resilience products and services in its products offerings. And the risk of both clients and institutions can be mitigated with such offerings. With this in vision, to support the microfinance clients on long-term basis, SAFCO collaborated with international organizations. And finally, with the support of Oxfam Novib and Triple Jump, SAFCO has started working on the disaster resilient framework for the microfinance clients and microfinance institutions. Under this project, we are in process to devise the mitigation framework, which can provide preparedness on disaster, and also the risk can be shared by transferring risk to the insurance companies with nominal and affordable pricing. We are thankful to Oxfam Novib and Triple Jump for their positive contribution and extending their support towards the sector. We are hopeful that with the implementation of this project, we will be able to make our rural communities and microfinance sector disaster resilient with disaster resilient approaches and risk sharing plans, embedding the insurance services with product offerings, providing awareness to microfinance clients to promote the community savings, enabling financial literacy and preparedness to response and disaster solutions. Thank you.
Okay, so indeed, two different testimonies, two different client profiles, two different situations, pre and post disasters. Common goal, increase resilience for the next phase of climate change. And yes, I think this tells much more than our slides. And we really wanted them, even if not present here for logistic reasons, to at least, bring a testimony from our clients. So I think we are quite on time. Do you have any questions, comments, remarks? Are you interested in learning anything more in depth? Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm quite interested with the last. I'm Philip from the. I'm sorry, from the Foundation Grameen Crédit Agricole, and I was quite interested with the last testimony in Pakistan, and I wanted to better understand exactly what has been Oxfam and Triple Jump contribution. I understood that there was some kind of TA support for the help them to design this risk management and so on. But then in terms of financial tools, were there any specific type of I don't know what type of elements were provided eventually by Triple Jump, and then what was the specific product that they are providing to their clients that have been affected by what we saw, and the figures are just so impressive. So, thank you.
You want to take the first part about the TA, and I can take the second.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I'm going to also ask my colleague to help me out with the answer. Michelle has been working also with the TA project, but in principle, we are after the disaster. It was a realization of SAFCO that they need to improve the risk management strategy. So we were supporting them with that part. But also the other need that was that came up is that the clients also need to be better prepared and better insured with climate change. So at this moment they are testing new product, more insurance type of product. But I will ask Michelle to give you a little bit more detail about that. But,
yes, so they were clients basically when the flood happened. No, it was a regular senior loan, nothing exotic. And they were clients, and this happened. And of course, you pause, you put it under intense monitoring and management, and they didn't even default repayments. To be honest, they managed, rescheduling a little bit, but they didn't default on anything. And at that time, we knew that this new strategy was being launched, so we started the discussion on which kind of non-financial support would you need in 2023, so this year. And that's how the grant and the TA through Oxfam started. And that's also thanks to all the work done by Michelle, that now we are putting a lot on the spot. And at the same time, we started talking about, what about the next round, financement? What do you need? So going back to this slide, that's the credit line number 2. So we're gonna get access to this senior loan, that has a longer grace period. So it has a bit more patient terms, to make sure that this is really redirected to those FIs that have already suffered from a climate disaster, which is the case. So that one is really a credit line that is targeted for these kind of institutions that are in a position where normally you wouldn't give them a loan immediately. You would say, let's wait another year as soon as you recover, because the covenants will be different, of course. We cannot expect them to have the same level of portfolio as Sumac we were just showing before. And at the same time, thanks to this TA of this year, they realized that they want to launch new products. So then credit line 3, this seed funding will be given to pilot it, and then, hopefully it will be successful up to the point where in the follow-up round of financing, if they need, that will be financed through a more regular credit line number 1, which is more for, continuous build of resilience. But yeah, SAFCO was a bit of an exception because it was already a client when we were transitioning between strategies. So, it was quite unique in terms of right time, right place, I would say, even if it was an absolute disaster that happened, at least we were already ready to start the support. And they have done an amazing work, and they're continuing, thinking of what they could do next for their client, because they know that the monsoon are changing in it, or so they expect it to come again in the future.
Yeah, the thing here is that we consciously decided to work in countries which are vulnerable to climate change. So to select the countries, the focus countries, the Oxfam Novib Fund is a worldwide fund, and we are active in 20 plus countries. But the selection criteria to choose one of our countries is basically three criteria actually. But the first one is the vulnerability of the country and the area to climate change. So by definition, we knew at the beginning that we will have these kind of cases, and we were ready to support our clients after the shock. There are 2 triggers to set up the credit lines 2. And the first one is after the shock, we expect our client and we support them to prepare a good damage assessment. So that is the step one. And once they have prepared the damage assessment, the next step, of course, is the recovery plan. And in some cases, what we have seen, MFIs are able to do that by themselves. But in other cases, the shock has been that bad, they are not, that the all risks plans, all the contingency plans are just gone, and they are not in a position to do that. So in that case, we could support them with TA, sending an expert to help them to prepare these 2 steps for the credit line too. That was regarding our intervention. I would like to introduce my colleague, Michelle. She has been working with SAPCO for the development of the new product and the piloting of the project. So.
Okay, it's a bit of an improvisation, but that's okay. So in terms of products, SAPCO is looking at, first of all, non-financial support, because during the assessment, they realized that a large part of the clients are not or very limited aware of climate change. So they want to integrate awareness sessions with their clients on a much more frequent basis. In terms of products, they would like to, they've identified their livestock loans and crop loans as the most vulnerable products they have in case of in the climate change, let's say, and they would like to bundle them with insurance that are paramedic insurance, so triggered by certain events, and in the long run they also want to combine it with a portfolio insurance, so work towards a hybrid model. And they are now in conversation with several insurance companies in Pakistan to see how they can make the first step. So that's what they're doing, but it's kind of a process. So the COA project also helped them to identify like the short-term plan and then medium and long-term plan in terms of these developments.
Thank you. I see that there's another question.
There is one here before.
Yes. I'm Patricia Richter, ILO Social Finance Program. I wonder, I mean, disaster can have very different phases. Was there anything that from COVID, also a crisis situation that you could use to learn from what to build into your strategy here? So when I look at the screen now, it's more money and again, more money. But is there anything else that we can learn from crisis that can help build into strategies? Because if there's one thing that we probably learned is putting more money can actually create more burden. And we see the results of this now because the debt burden also of the financial institutions are just increasing and repaying. So I wonder, is there anything that can be built into something like a climate disaster finance strategy here? That is the first one. And then the second one, the Kenya example struck me as it was titled adaptation. But if you could explain to me what exactly the adaptation angle there was with the growing the cow business. It was a cool video, I have to admit. But it's really, what is it that we are talking about when we talk of adaptation? I think that could help to be a bit more plastic in our minds.
Yes. Do you want to take it? Or
Thank you. Let me respond to the first one, and maybe Sophia can help you out with the second one. This strategy is based on years and years of experience in the industry. Yeah. And I see your point of, throwing more money into a crisis is not the solution, and that is not what we are talking about here. What we are talking about here is fine-tuning the products that you offer to both to MFIs, to end clients, to support them to recover, to support them to adapt, So on one hand, you do provide funding. That's what we do. We are fund, huh? But on the other hand, we do provide together with other parties, with close partnerships to support them to create the risk management plans, to develop the new products, to develop the awareness programs that they might have. So I have to disagree with you. This is not throwing more money. This is fine-tuning the services that we as funders we provide, and the helping the MFIs to provide the right product on the right moment to their clients to increase their resilience.
No, and I think you mentioned a good point. Like, we are a fund, so we won't change our nature. I mean, it's an investment management, the company where I work for. So, for sure, the financial component will be the first one, but it won't be the only one. And I think that, giving indeed a different kind of financing depending on the needs of the status of the institution is really important. And also just the awareness raising that we can do through credit line one, and linking to the second one. So to the second question, sorry, that you asked. I mean, there aren't many FIs as of today that offer climate resilience products already, or some of them do, but they don't market it that way, at least from what we've seen. But I'm happy to hear more opinions from the crowd. So, can agriculture loans be more resilient or contribute to climate resilience of the entrepreneurs? Yes, in our opinion, yes. Why? Because maybe by providing certain terms and conditions, by bundling it with insurance, it can indeed increase the resilience. You have higher income, you smoothen the consumption pattern of that specific entrepreneurs. You help them also diversify through biogas purchase. That was, maybe not the primary scope of that loan, but still it made that entrepreneur more resilient against changes due to energy prices, due to change in economic conditions in the country. So the definition, it might be a bit broad, sure. I mean, we are starting, and we are starting also approaching new prospects and clients saying, okay, look, who are your target groups? What are you doing? Do you recognize that there is an issue? And for instance, the Sumac team, and you're right, I mean, I think the video is very nice, but it's more marketing oriented than, reflection oriented. But when you talk with them, they're like, every year the drought is worse in Kenya. We have a lot of agri exposure because it's almost 1/3 of our portfolio. We need to start assessing these risks inside out and outside in for environmental purposes, and we have not done it yet. So they went through a TA program with another MIV, and now they are, more consciously bundling products and offering different terms and conditions. It will take time, I think. I think credit line one, will start also a little bit with a discussion and a bit of awareness raising and say, okay, but who are your target groups? Do you recognize that they are more vulnerable than others to climate change? Are you, assessing the climate risk in your portfolio? And that is maybe not just indeed financial support, but it's also more qualitative, more nuanced.
Just checking if there was another question there.
Yes, hello. This is from Alejandro from Risk Management, LMDF. Want to understand a little bit more the section 2, the instrument that you have to, and the example that you have in Pakistan. Because some of these MFIs might have different international lenders, I guess, when there's a disaster case. How do you ensure that the subordinated loan or the senior loan that you are basically disbursing doesn't go directly to repay some of the, let's say, other lenders who are in the position as well of, trying to recover their loans? And how do you actually manage let's say, this conflict that could happen?
No, it's a very valid question. So, so far, we consciously decided not to necessarily earmark our loans. I mean, if it's a sub-debt, it's impossible. It's almost impossible by definition. But we decided not to, because the reality is that if the need is at that point in time to refinance another loan, let it. I mean, you know, if that's the need of FI at that point, while at least you continuously support it, otherwise they would end into a liquidity issue. So we are not that stringent, but at the same time, normally credit line 2 is never given by itself. So the example of SAFCO is, okay, already it's gone through ATA, they've started developing this disaster risk management program. Okay, now it's time to, you know, making sure that they have financial means to continue operate in the first place, and that they improve and strengthen actually their practices, because otherwise at the next flood, it will be the same story over again. And yeah, so I think, you know, it's a risk that it's there, but it might be also part of the reason why these disaster recovery funds are needed, the financial part of it, I would say. I don't know,
Yeah,
Tamara,
but-
if you think differently.
Yeah, but I think that's also part of the negotiations. Normally, when this kind of disaster happen, you will start the lenders group, and then you will start with the discussions. This specific credit line has the aim to help the MFIs to develop recovery products for the end client. So it's not a normal top up of a loan that an affected client might have. It is a specific type of loan to recover somehow the source of income, part of the damaged capital assets that they had. So once the client receives this type of loan, we are expecting them to offer this kind of product to a certain group.
Sí, you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Eliseo from ADA. You were sharing with us this country profile and also end client profile that you are working with. And I was wondering if you have, well, given that you are a fund and you provide, at the end, you have a loan agreement with an MFI, right? So I was wondering if you have an eligibility criteria for an MFI, microfinance institution.
Yes, so in general, the country selection was a mix of countries where there is an Oxfam presence and activities, because indeed this non-financial component is very much linked with Oxfam. And we also used the climate risk index by German Watch to assess in the past 20 years on average which countries were the ones affected the most by climate disasters. And in this way, we decided to have some focus countries, but for also risk management purposes, pipeline building, etc., it's not an exclusive list. Also because, yeah, the past disasters are not always predictive of the next ones. So it's open, up to 50% of a portfolio needs to be in focus countries, the rest is not. There are certain regional thresholds as well, but let's say it covers almost, I would say, 1/3 by region, 1/3 in LATAM, 1/3 in Sub-Saharan Africa, and 1/3 in Asia Pacific. And then there are certain characteristics at the MFI level that depend also on the objectives of a fund. For instance, the objective of a fund is to be 2x aligned in terms of genderless investing. And it's a conscious choice of Oxfam and Triple Jump to work with gender intentional organization. It was already the case in the previous strategy of a fund. We wanted to continue, but instead of using a bit more Oxfam NGO-oriented definitions of gender equity, gender justice, we aligned with the 2X framework, which by now it's the standard for investments, I would say. So for instance, we want the institutions we work with to be committed at least to improve on their gender representation within the organization and within the clients, or to already meet a certain criteria, to name one. But then there are other criteria that we are that we chose, because of course this is the theme of the fund, yes, but there are other criteria also in terms of exclusion list, in terms of environmental and social practices that the FIs need to follow and implement in their operations. So I hope this answers, but if you have any more interest, like more precise comments.
Sorry, maybe regarding that size, is there a minimum size of institution you are targeting, or maximum size, or
Okay,
regarding financial performance?
You mean the size of the fund, or you mean the size of the organizations?
The size of a microfinance institution.
Yeah, it's a good question. And the thing is, we used to choose our clients based on the tier of the MFI. Size a tier 3, is a tier 2, so not that large. Then it will be by definition one client of our fund. But we realized that that's not any longer what we want to do. How we select now an MFI to be a potential client of us is looking at the set of products that they have, looking at the location where they are, and looking at their ability and willingness to start with us, to scale up current products that they might have that are in line with us. So in terms of tiers, at this moment, we could work also with a tier 1 working on a prone area, as long as it works in the area. You are okay. I'm looking at the time. It's great to have so many questions.
No, thank you.
Can you go first, and then the
lady behind as well? No, maybe it's easier. Yeah, it's also because she hasn't spoken yet.
Maybe the microphone.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's just a quick question. Paula Cortez from ADA too. So I'm wondering if you have any idea what is the main barrier for the MFIs to access the fund, or what is your main barrier to access to put the fund available for more MFIs?
That's a very good question. So the main barrier for the MFIs, sometimes the fact that when you start talking about climate change products, it doesn't really resonate that much, or about, okay, but what is your climate assessment of your own risks? Not always it resonates with prospects. And that's also why, the influencing activities or even the engagement is part of that, because yes, maybe they recognize whether partners are changing, but okay, so what do you want to do about it? It's still a little bit, unclear. Or when you talk about, okay, but what about indeed the transition, to a carbon neutral economy? How do you envision that? It doesn't really seem a problem, it's like, okay, but it doesn't touch us. We need to develop first, and then we will think about it. So sometimes I think that's the barrier. For us to give funds, and then of course, you have still all the risk management frameworks you need to check, the ESG frameworks they need to comply with. So it's an intersection, but I don't know. I don't think it's too difficult.
I love that question. It's a really good one.
Yeah, it's open. No, it's working. Yeah.
I think actually the main barrier is the consciousness of the MFI that they are already dealing with climate change, somehow having an own strategy to deal with. And most of the MFIs, that is part of our TA program. We really want to support MFIs to do a real climate risk assessment of the operations, And based on this assessment of what is your real climate risk, and don't tell me that you don't work in that area or you don't finance that crop because it's too risky, just look at the whole set of operations. And based on that risk analysis of the real climate risk, we want to help them to look also at ways to embrace is a kind of old word, but it might be the one that we want to use in this case, to look at the risk, to assess the risk, and to see it as an opportunity. How can I really work in this area that I didn't just support because it was too risky, maybe with some kind of product, maybe if I use insurance, maybe if I test a new type of crop, more resilient, that will be the way of working on. So I think that in general, the main barrier is that the awareness of MFIs, of the potential that they have, and that they are already dealing with in some way.
I have another question regarding the two, the credit line number 2 and number 3.
Yes.
The credit line 1 is business as usual.
Not really.
Not really business as usual. So do you have any, I mean, where does the money come from? Does it come from your business as usual, or do you have a specific funding for that, or there's kind of guarantee scheme as well for this type of credit line that might be a little bit more, that might be riskier, a little more innovative? So is it kind of blended finance? Because here you see grants, but I mean, we have some kind of grants mechanism with at least for the line 3 or maybe 2 add on. So I want to understand how you structure it. Yes, thank you.
It's a great question indeed. And at this moment, the funds come only from Oxfam Novib. The idea, and indeed for the credit line 2 and 3, the risk level is different. So what we want to do at this moment, we are transitioning. It's a new strategy, and we are transitioning to this new one. And I think that the third one, the credit line 3, is open for to other like-minded investors of donors, because we need blended finance to massify that to credit.
Yes, and we are busy applying also to facilities that indeed could finance the TA program and the credit line 3. I think indeed there are certain caps to how much will go to credit line 2, how much to credit line 3, unless we get different kind of investors on board, you know. Of course, it's I mean, if our portfolio manager was here, would tell you that it needs to be balanced because we still have a commitment of a certain return back to Oxfam. But it's true that it's Oxfam and it's out of their balance sheet. So, you know, it's a different investor. We don't, as Triple Jump, offer these always for every fund we manage. So, of course, it's also thanks to Oxfam's position.
I'm looking at the time. I'm so sorry. There might be more questions.
I think they are not interrupting us because there is nothing. It's time to take the train and go home. Almost.
Thank you lots for being here.
Yes.
Please feel free to.
Here are our contact details.
Question, any comment, any criticism.
Yeah.
Everything is welcome, so the door is open.
Yeah. It's a bit of a testing, also phase. So this was really the first year transitioning, and the transition continues, and the refinement as well. So definitely, please feel free to share any feedback you might have, and thank you so much for being here the last day in the afternoon. Thank you.